I just played through Persona 5 for the first time, which has me going from only 12 minutes of playtime to over 130 hours, having done the story, royal content, this run, and the beginning of a New Game Plus run. I also ended up playing all of Striker's story and moved on to Persona 3 as well. However, very early on in the game, I had a thought. How far could I get through the story if I decided to do nothing and sleep during every chance of free time that I get? And what would happen? So that's why I'm doing this video, even though it's not my usual style, just out of pure curiosity and thought maybe I could do something fun with it. Only rules to this challenge is Joker cannot attack during combat, and that all free time must be spent sleeping. That means no going into palaces unless the game forces me to, or leveling up confidants, which means no therapy, the true depression run. I'll also be playing on hard mode just to give myself a little bit of a challenge and something to do, and I'm even going to make this harder on myself and not allow any ambushes, because that requires Joker to break the first rule. So with that all being said, let us see, can you beat Persona 5 while having depression? Due to the depression, I have voices in my head. They're telling me to eat my veggies and get out of this casino. Immediately, I hit the first problem in this run, a combat encounter with just Joker, and no matter how much I try to put my guard up, the enemy doesn't end its own life. The game does prevent me from dying during the tutorial, but I guess by the rules that I set up for myself, this run has automatically failed from the get-go. That's okay though, I just let the game do this for me. This will unfortunately be the way that I have to get past any section like this, guard as much as possible for the hell of it, and then just rush the battle. Technically, I'm not doing anything here, it's the game. That's at least gonna be how I see this. The second combat encounter is a little easier to get through, since Joker's backed up with a mysterious white nationalist, so I put my guard up, don't even get a choice in what she gets to do, with the game automatically making her critical all three enemies leading into an all-out attack. As much as I would love to negate Joker from these, as far as I'm aware that's not possible, so instead I like to imagine Joker just sitting on the sidelines during these. After she disappears, I enter one of the many cutscenes where Joker acts undepression-like and makes a cool exit before getting caught by a swarm of police and knocked out. I wake up, get beat up, say nothing, not only because I don't speak without my lawyer, but also because I'm too sad to speak. I tried to give myself the most appropriate name I could think of, but couldn't make it work with the letter limit, so I went with the only other option I can come up with on the spot. I begin my interrogation with my future sister-in-law, see a cool butterfly, learn that Depressy ended up in Skyrim somehow.
Do you get to the Cloud District?
Damn brat! I'll sue!
And now we finally get to the present day. In the process of moving in with Markiplier, the game wants me to clean up my room. Naturally, because I'm supposed to be depressed, I don't want to do any cleaning. This is perfectly fine, I can live in this. Unfortunately, the game won't let me just adapt to this mess, and so I'm forced to clean before I can finally do the first sleep of this run. I dream about a hot local MILF in my area before going to school and meeting a hot local MILF in my area. Talking to two people is too many people, so now I'm tired and I go to sleep. Despite how much I want to continue to sleep, I am forced to go to school. On my way there, I see a cute girl and immediately fall in love. Very realistic. Then I meet a complete dumbass and become best friends with him. Very realistic. On the way to school, Ryuji and I end up in a castle instead, being tortured by Jeffrey Epstein. Joker awakens to his persona, and I end up in the same problem I was at the beginning, a combat encounter with nobody else to do the work. So, as much as I hate to do it, I put my guard up hoping that these Halloween decorations just kill me, but when the game refuses to let that happen, I just let it rush through the rest of the battle to move forward. We lock up Epstein. I sure do hope the cameras don't conveniently cut out for 3 minutes. Meet a cat.
I am not—
Shut up. And now combat encounters can be done properly according to the rules. I can now put Joker's guard up and let Morgana do all the work. I'm not able to control Morgana at this point, so I just watch him take out the enemies and at one point heal Joker. Afterwards, Ryuji holds us up, refusing to listen and putting us in another combat encounter where I finally get to control Morgana's moves. Could I just let the AI do all the work? Probably, but that would have made this experience even more boring for me, so at least let me have this. Every time it's Joker's turn, I put his guard up and then slowly whittle down the HP of the pixies using a combo of Garu and Melee. After taking those two out, Ryuji and I finally escape out of this castle to immediately be confronted by the police. I claim to not know who this idiot is before ditching him. I try playing nice to this weirdo and end up back in the future where I refuse to tell the authorities anything, and then return back to the present to be forced into class where I say nothing before Ryuji tells tells me to meet him up on the roof. I don't want to meet him up on the roof. I want to go to sleep. I try to leave the school, but the game won't let me, so I guess it's up onto the roof. The entire combo with Ryuji boils down to me trying to outdumb the blondie before I head back to the cafe for a good old talking to by my adult supervisor about skipping half the day, and then I finally get to go to sleep where I have another dream with God. The next day, I unfortunately have to go to school again, where an interaction with this girl in a ribbon just comes out of nowhere, and then I be dumb in class before watching this insanely creepy interaction. Ryuji tries to talk to me after school, and I pretend like I don't know him. No matter how much I refuse to do what he wants because all I want to do is go to sleep, he drags me around town trying to end up back in the castle before taking my phone and getting what he wants. Morgana is truly baffled by this idiotic decision, can't say I blame him. I once again try to get out of this, but I'm unable to. The game tries to teach me about ambushing, but per the rules of this challenge, I'm not allowed to do that, so I end up with 3 jack-o'-lanterns trying to kill me. Luckily enough, their weakness is wind, so Morgana is able to just wipe the floor really quickly before we move on and find a safe room. I make the mistake of not doing anything in here other than saving, before heading back out for the next combat encounter, and this is where I'm so glad that I gave myself the rules of hard mode and no ambushes, because this is the most painful experience this game gave me, and I did the goddamn Okumura boss battle. The first attempt, I was given 3 pixies, and unfortunately both Garu and Melee barely do much damage to these things, and their weakness is tied to Arsene, which can't be used. So I end up in an infinite loop of getting a little bit of damage on a pixie just for it to be healed immediately afterwards. I thought maybe I had a chance when one of them didn't have enough SP to heal, but it was pointless given Morgana's lack of SP and a pixie just killing off Joker anyways. I learned my lesson about running in on half health, so I took the opportunity in the safe room to make sure Joker and Morgana would have as much health to waste. Now this is where the rules get a little tricky because Joker strictly is not allowed to do anything. I would be able to use medicine in combat, it would just have to be during a different character's turn. When it comes to outside of combat, I'd like to just pretend that it's someone other than Joker applying the medicine as well. Walking into the second attempt, the game gives me 3 jack-o'-lanterns, which got me really excited knowing that this will be an easy match, before one of them immediately kills Morgana. I wish I would have been recording my reaction to this because my god, this was the most evil thing the game could do and it's so fucking funny. Third attempt, I tried to ignore the shadow and somehow actually end up getting past him. But I have as much intelligence as Ryuji and end up not going the right way and convincing myself that I'm going to have to defeat this thing regardless. Luckily enough, the game gave me the jack-o'-lanterns again and Morgana is able to survive the first attack, so it's just a matter of using Garu to knock them out, and then some medicine on Joker because he was 1 hit away from me having to attempt this for a 4th time. The jack-o'-lanterns are also depressed and lack the energy to do anything, which gives me great opportunities to just melee them all to death. After finishing the battle is when I realized I might have actually been able to avoid combat anyways, had I known which door I was supposed to go through, but oh well. We move on into the gun tutorial, where the game once again forces Joker to actually do something. Since I can't put my guard up or even rush the battle, I just shoot 1 bullet before handing it off to Morgana, who no longer lets me have control over his actions and just fires away. After taking out the jack-o'-lantern, Morgana and I play a great game of Joker puts his guard up and he just fires 1 bullet at the Mandrake, healing himself at one point as well. I also checked to see if Morgana got set to free roam, but that wasn't the case, so I just continued to let Morgana whittle down this Mandrake's HP before entering yet another combat encounter. This time I'm able to put Joker's guard up from the start, but I still don't have control over Morgana, so I'm just forced to watch him get cast with Forgetfulness, try to save his life, get cast with Forgetfulness again, and then die.
I'll back out and focus on support.
You are the support! I was genuinely scared for a moment that I'd have to go through the previous shadow again, but luckily the game just lets me restart this combat encounter, where the same loop happens of Morgana shooting once, getting brought down to near death, being cast with Forgetfulness, healing, rinse and repeat. Only luckily enough, the Mandrake decided to actually hit Joker for once, allowing Morgana to have to step up and finally take it down. I used some medicine on Joker, but with Morgana being so incredibly low on SP, I really didn't want to end up in another fight, so I made an attempt at trying to sneak past the next guard, and surprisingly it worked, bringing me into the all-out attack tutorial where the game takes control of Joker and makes him break the first rule, and then forces me to make a move. Afterwards, we finally get to see how Kamoshida views teaching. Ryuji still doesn't understand the basic of basics. I'm honestly quite surprised he's even able to remember somebody's face. And then we finally get to make our escape. Or at least try. After the last few combat encounters, I was desperately looking forward to Ryuji awakening to his persona so I could have a little more manpower in the fights. I use Zio to weaken the two-horned beast and then attempt to shoot all 3 enemies, forgetting that the guard captain is resistant to bullets. I attempt to use Garu on him, which doesn't do much, and then he and one of his beasts gang up and take out Ryuji. Morgana is able to take out one of the beasts, but quickly gets taken out, which then just leaves Joker by himself to guard until he's being taken out too. Attempt number 2, and I learned my lesson, using Zio to weaken both the beasts, and then another Zio to take one of them out, then using Morgana's slingshot to drop the second beast to just a sliver of health that one attack will surely take him out. I get lucky with the 2 enemies, deciding to not team up against one of my party members and instead distribute the pain between Ryuji and Morgana, allowing me to use Zio to wipe out the second beast and get another move as Ryuji, where I use Zio again on the Captain Guard. Then I use Dia to heal up Ryuji because I honestly don't want to lose him again in this battle, which was a great choice because the guard decided to attack Ryuji and make him lose all the health he recovered, but luckily he's still standing to use Zio again. When I'm back to Morgana, I heal up Ryuji once again, and then the guard takes out Morgana. I use another Zio, Ryuji tanks a hit, and then one last Zio finally finishes the battle before going into another cutscene where this time we get to see how Kamoshida views An. It's incredibly distasteful, but I chose to have Joker be jealous in this scenario because, well, I don't really have a good reason. I just thought this would be the most fitting response that a sad boy would have. Morgana and Joker have the good idea of getting the hell out of here, and then Ryuji drags me to a ramen place despite me once again trying to go home and sleep. Remember when this challenge was about sleeping through everything? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Anyways, the next day the whole class watches Mishima fucking die before Ryuji forces me into his bidding. As much as I try to leave to go home and sleep, the game won't let me, so I wander around the school a bit, talking to volleyball students and getting no information, until I have to watch a very uncomfortable interaction between Ryuji and An happen, and then the two of us attempt to interrogate Mishima, and then finally I get to go home and sleep. The following day just consists of letting Ryuji blow up my DMs, being forced to talk to women, and then listening to a talking cat tell us our only option of dealing with Kamoshida, and then I'm off to my bed. Until the game forces me to become Corbin from Please Stop Talking.
I did accidentally chase a woman.
An trauma dumps onto me, which makes me even more depressed, so I quickly go home and go to sleep. The next morning, we get to watch Shiho commit Joker's dream. God, I wish that was me. Anyways, I had only one interaction with this woman. I hardly think that means any of this involves me, so I try to go home and sleep, which the game once again refuses me from doing so. So I play into the game's hand, watch the cutscene, interrogate Mishima once again, and then Ryuji goes into a blind rage and heads after Kamoshida. I think he's valid and make no attempts to stop him, but the game doesn't like that, so I'm forced to put up with this piece of shit, this taunting attitude, before I'm forced to, for some reason, stop Ryuji from doing what's right.
Oh, you're stopping him? What a surprise.
Yeah, I know, man. Can't believe I'm agreeing with you for once. This is so much for one day. Now I really want to go home and sleep. Unfortunately, I'm still in the tutorial stage, so I gotta go through and learn how to interrogate shadows and put their souls into my mask, which, in this case, is completely pointless. I love when Morgana's shocked look. The game forces me to break the rules again, but at least I only have to do it once before I can put Joker's guard up and have Morgana and Ryuji handle the rest of the fight, which goes off pretty well, with one of the shadows having already been knocked down and some Morgana bullets draining his health. And a Zio from Ryuji knocking out the second one, putting us into an all-out attack, which unfortunately doesn't end the battle, but nothing a few melee attacks can't fix. Afterwards, I make some really stupid decisions and decide to really try to open this chest, which puts me into 3 back-to-back-to-back combat encounters. The first one involves 3 pixies, which I thought was going to be easy given my use of a slingshot leading into an all-out attack, but I forgot I'm playing on hard mode and it barely does shit. I try to enact another all-out attack using Ryuji's perfect amount of 3 bullets, but the idiot misses, fucking up my whole plan. My chances of another all-out attack are impossible, with Morgana only having 2 bullets left and taking a book out of Ryuji's page by missing, and then for some reason patting himself on the back for being a fuck-up. I use the tried and true method of Garu and melee to slowly take out the pixies, with them of course healing themselves in the process, and Ryuji missing one of his attacks, so this goes on longer than I would have liked. Then for some reason I try going after this chest again, which puts me straight back into combat, but worse this time because now the security level is at nice. 3 jack-o'-lanterns is theoretically great until Morgana misses his second attack, leaving me with Ryuji. He makes up for it, being able to take out 2 of the jack-o'-lanterns. I don't know why I didn't try to attempt going into another all-out attack, other than maybe trying to preserve Morgana's SP, but regardless, one more hit on this jack-o'-lantern should finish the fight.
Oh, Skull. You're pathetic.
Well, Morgana finishes the job for him, but the fight's not over because more enemies appear, and of course, they're pixies. It's at this point that I'm actually incredibly glad that I made the rules the way they were, because I knew I'd spend a good majority of the time in the tutorial, and this makes for great content. Anyways, Ryuji almost dies, so I guess he takes that chance to finally lock in, not missing a single shot and taking down all the pixies and leading into an all-out attack that barely does anything. And a pixie pulls out the healing move, but luckily Morgana is able to get 3 perfect shots off that leads into a second all-out attack. I try to melee my way out of here, but Ryuji misses and allows the pixie to pull out the healing ability once again. I try to use Morgana's last 2 shots to pull another all-out attack, but he misses both of them. This pixie's a bitch and immediately heals herself after Ryuji's attack. Using Garu, I'm able to bring a pixie to low health just for Ryuji's dumbass to miss. I am genuinely in pain at this point, watching these pixies practically negate any damage I try making. A pixie tries to make an escape, and for some reason I call him the Thieves Guild to negate it. I don't know why. But after some more melee moves, I'm finally able to finish the fight, and I choose to completely ignore this chest and make a beeline to the safe room, narrowly escaping a 4th encounter. An gets kidnapped, and for some reason I think about whether or not I should heal up the group and decide not to, before sneaking past a shadow and making my way to An, so I could watch her awaken to her persona and then fight a demon taking a shit. I use Agi to go into an all-out attack, which does barely any damage, and this is where I realize I fucked up in not healing the group. I choose to have Morgana heal himself, attempt to use Zio just for the shittin' demon to resist it, and then use Wind on the whole team, killing Ryuji and healing himself. An's entire role in this battle is just to use Agi and enact all-out attacks, while I try to use Morgana to heal up the group. Focusing on Joker this time, because I need him to stay alive in order to continue the fight. Morgana almost dies, so I use An to heal him, and then have Morgana pay An back by healing her, which I guess was a good choice, because the demon focuses on An and would have easily killed her had I not used Dia. I pull out the Agi all-out attack combo, doing little damage as usual, and then heal An. The demon chooses to attack Joker, which is easily the best thing he could do, allowing me to pull out Agi again. I whittle down his health a bit, using Morgana's slingshot before he tanks a wind hit, leaving An to make the finishing move and finally ending the fight. Ryuji just laying on the ground here is so funny. An's too weak to continue on, and Ryuji's being a dick about it as usual. So we leave the palace, get a glimpse of a gentle madman, take Morgana home, and finally I am at the point where I'm no longer required to go back to the palace. However, the game still wants me to do tutorial stuff, so after getting hit with a piece of chalk, I try to do Morgana's true wishes and go to sleep, but he won't let me. So I'm required to talk to Mommy, unlock the ability to buy medicine, which I don't, eavesdrop on a convo that means absolutely nothing to me, and finally get to sleep. The next day, Ryuji drags me to a gun store, which I naturally do everything in my power to refuse, but to my demise, the game won't give me power. So I talk to this beefcake of a man, don't buy anything, and then try to go to sleep again, but Morgana forces me to make one singular lockpick instead. Morgana, forcing me to not go to sleep is incredibly out of character for you. I wake up the next day, go to school, try to ignore Kamoshida, end up having to talk to Kawakami, of course only after Kamoshida continues to be the most despicable man on the planet, and then I am finally given free range to start this run properly.
This is where the fun begins.
I decide to ignore fast travel on my first day of freedom and walk home, which ends up putting me in an interaction with Kamoshida that I don't recall having in my last playthrough, so that was neat. Then I get lost at the station square, so I start using fast travel and promptly go to sleep. I wake up the next morning, go to school, where the game tries to get me to read. Silly game. I don't read. I actually give a shit about answering this question for some reason. Ryuji invites me to training, but I don't want to train. I want to sleep. Sojiro tries to get me to do some cleaning, but I don't want to clean. I want to sleep. I sleep. I have a nightmare. I wake up the next morning, go to school, and the game has the audacity to try to get me to go get a job. Silly cat. I don't need to focus on changing Kamoshida's heart. I need to focus on sleep. On the train ride to school, somebody actually speaks of something important, DVDs. But I'd be too tired to watch a movie anyways. I should go to sleep. The game throws its first attempt at trying to get me to go to the palace, so I tell An I'll think about it, and then I go to sleep. The next day, I have to go to school, where Morgana bullies me for being a contrarian. After school, the game tries again to remind me about the palaces. You're right, Morgana. I shouldn't let the chance to go to sleep go to waste. The next morning, Ryuji tries to get me to go to the palace, so I give him the appropriate answer of, I'll think about it. Got something on my mind? Of course I do, it's existential dread. So I go to sleep. I dream about Ryuji too for some reason. After 6 days of ignoring everything for the sweet sensation of sleep, the game forces me to go to the hideout, which I thought was hilarious. After listening to these three yap about pointless things, I take the opportunity to leave and go back home. Earlier, I heard about the shopping channel and thought it'd actually be pretty fitting to this run to participate in it, because spending money and going into debt is going to make me happy, right? So I buy the most expensive thing available and then go to sleep and dream about Ryuji again. The next day, Morgana asks me what kind of movies I like, which I don't give a response to, and Kawakami admits that she's a Weird Al fan. Morgana asks such a dumb question. What is the plan? Well, obviously, it's to go to sleep and dream about Ryuji for a third time, apparently. Jesus Christ, why is Joker so obsessed with Ryuji? This is where the game starts to actually make me kind of feel bad for my actions. With An pushing for us to go to the palace, and I tell her she's just being impatient, which ends up gaslighting her into thinking she's in the wrong. I don't feel like going. I feel like sleeping. The next morning, the game gives me the perfect depression dialogue, saying that taking care of myself is a waste of time. What a mood. Anyways, after class, I promptly head straight for my bed, and at this point, Morgana's starting to get upset with me, urging me to go to the palace. I found quite a bit of joy from the game desperately trying to get me to do the story, but ultimately, I go to sleep, and Morgana tries to suffocate me. The next morning, Ryuji is now trying to get me to go to the palace, so I gaslight him before heading back home. Morgana is now really starting to get upset with me and tries to put his paw down, saying I have to go to the palace the next day. For a second, I genuinely thought the game was going to force me into the palace, and was starting to wonder if it would even let me leave. I decided I'd tackle that when it happens, and went to sleep, with Morgana telling me once again that I'm going to the palace, and having the same dream about Ryuji for a fourth time. I wake up Friday morning, not having to go to school for some reason, and Morgana saying we're going to the palace, but I'm not being forced to do it. So I go to sleep, with Morgana trying one last time to get me to stop and failing to do so, and with that, I have officially gone past the deadline and there is truly nothing else I can do but go to sleep. And go to sleep. And go to sleep. At this point, Morgana starts blaming himself, and now I genuinely feel bad, but that doesn't stop me. I go to sleep until the very end. I wake up in a cutscene, the police show up and arrest me for sleeping. I'm brought back to the interrogation room where I start wondering how the hell did I end up in here? How did I make it all the way to that casino and in this situation if all I've done is sleep until I'm arrested? And then Joker is shot and killed, ending the run with one last look at God. You know, given the theme of Joker being depressed here, I think this was actually a win for him. And with all that said and done, I guess you can't beat Persona 5 by having depression, or alternatively, ignoring everything for sleep. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thanks for sticking around with this random bullshit. This was never supposed to be a serious challenge run, just a dumb idea I had that I thought I could maybe turn into a fun video. If you want something a little more proper to this theme, with a genuine attempt at beating the game while virtually doing nothing, I'd recommend watching NitsuaGamer's challenge run. I'll put links to all of his videos on the challenge in the description and comment section, as well as the first entry in the card. This definitely isn't a normal video on the channel, and I don't have any intentions on becoming a challenge runner, though I might attempt this style in Persona 3 and 4 once I'm finished with those games, for the same reason as I did here, just to see what happens. I'll have the reviews coming back at some point, already have a few in the works. I hope you enjoyed this fun little escapade of dumbassery in the meantime. This will surely be a fun one to edit. Speaking of editing, a little fun fact, I played this entire run without the background music so editing would be easier, and my god, is it such a weird experience.
Excuse me, but this area is off.
Anyways, that's about it. Hope you have a good day.